Your first hour is destroying your potential, and most of you don't even know it's happening. Here's what the first hour looks like for most high-achieving professionals. The alarm goes off. It probably doesn't because you've been awake since 4:47 running scenarios in your mind. You grab your phone before your feet hit the floor, and you're checking emails, you're scrolling, you see someone else closing deals and wonder why your pipeline feels so slow, and before you've even brushed your teeth, your brain is already in full reaction mode. And here's the part that nobody talks about. That reaction mode, it doesn't stop when you put your phone down. It follows you into the first call, into your first meeting, into your first decision of the day. Your brain, for the first 60 minutes, is setting the neurological tone for everything that comes after. What I'm going to give you today is the exact framework that I use, that I teach, that the high-performing people in real estate, mortgage, and entrepreneurship use to take back those first 60 minutes and use them to build the day they actually want instead of reacting to everyone else's. I call this the Thrive in 5. And by the end of this episode, you'll have every piece of it, including the science behind why it works, which I think actually matters more or just as much as the practice itself. I'm Shelly Panzarella, mortgage advisor, performance coach, author, speaker, and a woman who spent 27 years building businesses and watching what separates the people who thrive from the people who survive. So today, for the next 60 minutes, this is your time. Let's use it well. But before we get into the framework, I need to tell you about your brain. That's right, your brain. Because understanding what is actually happening neurologically when you start your day is what turns these 5 steps from nice ideas into non-negotiables. So your brain has what neuroscience calls a negativity bias. It's not a flaw, it's a survival mechanism that evolved over hundreds of thousands of years. Your brain literally is wired to scan for threats before it can scan for opportunities. It is designed to notice what's wrong before it notices what's right. I know it's totally backwards, right? Research published in Neuropsychology confirmed that negative stimuli produced a stronger neural response than positive stimuli of the same intensity. Your brain literally processes negative information more thoroughly than positive information. What that means in practical terms is this. Left to its own devices, your brain will start every day looking for danger, for problems, for what's missing, for what could go wrong, for what someone else has that you don't. And that's before you even open up Instagram. But seriously, when you layer social media scrolling on top of an already negativity biased brain, first thing in the morning before you've had a single intentional thought, you're essentially handing your threat detection system a megaphone. The good news is that your brain is neuroplastic. It can be rewired. The pathways that fire most frequently are the pathways that get stronger, which means that what you do consistently every morning before the world gets loud shapes the literal architecture of your brain over time. Dr. Andrew Huberman at Stanford University has documented that the practices you perform in the first 90 minutes of waking set the neurochemical baseline, including cortisol, dopamine, and serotonin levels that govern your cognitive performance, emotional regulation, and decision-making for the rest of the day. So what we're building today is not a motivational checklist. We're building a neurological protocol, a daily routine that works with your brain's biology instead of against it. Mike Murdoch states, "The secret of your future is hidden in your daily routine." That quote hits differently when you understand the neuroscience behind it. Your future is literally encoded in your daily habits because your daily habits are what shape your neural pathways. And your neural pathways determines how you think, how you respond, what you notice, and what you're capable of. Before I walk you through the 5 steps, I want to paint a picture that I think makes the whole thing click instantly. I know many of you have been on an airplane and you've heard the safety announcement probably so many times that your eyes glaze over and you start checking your phone instead of watching the demonstration. But there is one line in that announcement that I can't get past. In the event of a loss of cabin pressure, oxygen masks will drop from the compartment above your seat. Please secure your own mask before assisting others. Why do they have to tell us that? Think about it. Why is that a necessary instruction? Because our instinct, especially if you're a natural caregiver, a servant leader, a parent, a business owner who takes care of everyone on your team, our instinct is to help the person next to us first. the person we love, the client who's counting on us, the deal that needs saving. And the airplane people had to write it into law because too many people were passing out trying to take care of everyone else before taking care of themselves. The same dynamic is playing out in businesses every single day. Brilliant, caring, hardworking people who are showing up depleted because they took care of everyone else's oxygen first. So phase 1 of the Thrive in 5 framework is your oxygen mask. 2 steps, both you, your mindset, and your words, your internal state. Before you pour a single drop into anyone else, I call it the power of words. And I want to show you the science that explains why those words are the most powerful business tool you have. Step 1 is gratitude. Before you roll your eyes, stay with me, because I'm not going to tell you to feel grateful. I'm going to show you through peer-reviewed research what gratitude practice physically does to your brain. And then you can decide for yourself if you want those results. When you practice gratitude, and I mean active, written, specific gratitude, not a vague, oh, I'm so grateful for my health. 4 specific things happen in your brain simultaneously. First, your medial prefrontal cortex activates. This is a region responsible for decision-making, emotional regulation, and self-reflection. When this region is active, you think more clearly, you regulate your emotions more effectively, and you're more cognitively flexible under pressure. The UCLA Mindfulness Awareness Research Center found that individuals practicing gratitude showed increased activation in the medial prefrontal cortex even after 3 months of consistent practice. The change was structural, measurable on brain scans. And second, your amygdala becomes less reactive. The amygdala is your brain's alarm system. It fires when it detects threats, triggering fight or flight. A hyperactive amygdala is why you snap at a client, why you spiral when a deal falls apart, why you catastrophize at 2 a.m. A study published in Frontiers in Human Neuroscience by research at the University of Oregon found that gratitude practice measurably reduced amygdala reactivity within 6 weeks. Participants had calmer nervous systems and lower inflammatory markers. Third, your brain releases dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin simultaneously. Dopamine drives motivation and reward-seeking behavior. Serotonin is your natural mood stabilizer. Oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding chemical, enhances your capacity for trust and connection. And here's what makes this a daily practice worth protecting. Gratitude creates a self-reinforcing loop. The dopamine release makes gratitude feel rewarding, which makes your brain more likely to notice things to be more grateful for, which triggers more dopamine. You're literally training your brain to look for what's right instead of what's wrong. Fourth, and this is the one that I think matters the most for people in business. Harvard Medical School research showed that consistent gratitude practice lowered cortisol levels, improved sleep, and increased a greater sense of calm. UC Berkeley researchers found it strengthened neural circuits tied to empathy and connection. UC Berkeley researchers found it strengthened neural circuits tied to empathy and connection, directly visible on brain scans. The gratitude practice doesn't just make you feel better, it chemically prepares your brain to connect more authentically, regulate your emotions under pressure, and notice opportunity in a market where most people are only seeing obstacles. The most successful professionals I know are also consistently the most grateful people I know. I used to think that was a personality trait. Now I understand it's a daily practice that rewires the brain over time. Here's what I want you to do for step 1. Every morning, before you touch your phone, write down 3 things you are grateful for in your business. Not your life in general, your business. Be specific, be precise. Not I'm grateful for my clients. Try this. I'm grateful that Maria trusted me with the biggest financial decision of her life last week, and she called me crying happy tears at closing. That specificity, that level of detail is what activates the neural response. Vague gratitude gets a vague result. Specific gratitude creates a specific neurological shift. Gratitude is not a feeling. It's a practice. And like any practice, it gets stronger the more you do it. Step 2, Affirmations. I know, I see the eye rolls through the camera. I felt that myself for many years before I actually looked at the research. So let me address the skepticism head on and then let the science do the talking. Affirmations are not about pretending. They're not toxic positivity. They're not standing in front of a mirror lying to yourself. When done correctly in a specific forward-oriented way, affirmations are a neurologically validated tool for reshaping the brain's self-processing systems. In 2016, researchers at the University of Pennsylvania published a landmark study in the journal Social, Cognitive, and Affective Neuroscience. They used functional MRI brain imaging to measure what happens in the brain during self-affirmation tasks. Participants who engaged in self-affirmation showed increased activity in two key brain networks, regions associated with reward and positive valuation, and the self-related processing network, which are regions that process identity and self-concept. In plain English, the affirmation activated the brain's reward system and the regions that form both who you believe you are simultaneously. There's a critical distinction in this research that changes how you write your affirmations. Future-oriented affirmations outperform past-oriented ones, meaning I am becoming a trust advisor who leads with excellence, I am becoming a trusted advisor who leads with excellence, activates the brain more powerfully than I have been a good advisor. Your brain responds more strongly to who you are becoming than to who you have been. What you declare about your future self, spoken out loud, activates your brain's reward system, which means your brain begins to treat that future identity as something worth pursuing, worth protecting, worth making real. What you declare, you demonstrate. That's not a motivational poster, that's neuroscience. Here's how to write affirmations that work. They need to be specific to your identity as a professional and a person. Forward-oriented, about who you are becoming, not just who you've been. And personally meaningful, not something you copied from a book, but something that can make you feel both stretched and plausible. Here are 3 that I use personally. Take them and make them your own. I am a trusted advisor. People seek me out because I lead with service and wisdom. I show up with excellence even when it's inconvenient. I am building a business and a legacy that will outlast me. Say those out loud, not in your head, out loud. There's something that happens when you hear your own voice speak something over you. It lands differently. It sticks differently. Do it in the car, do it in the shower, do it in a parking lot before you walk into a presentation. Nobody has to know, but you will feel the difference. The combination of gratitude and affirmations, step 1 and 2, is what I call the power of words. Now let's talk about what you do with it. It's your oxygen mask. It's the internal work that makes all of the external action possible. Now let's talk about what you do with it. Phase 1 was filling your cup. Everything we just talked about was the gratitude practice, the affirmations, the neuroscience behind why they work. That's your internal preparation, your oxygen mask, so to speak. Phase 2 is where you pour the cup into your world. I call it the power of 1. 3 steps. Each one involves a single, precise decision that creates momentum, not by doing more, but by doing the right things with full intention. In a world that celebrates busyness, the power of 1 is a radical act. Step 3. What is the one thing you must get done today? Not your to-do list. I know you have one. I know it's long. I know some of those items have been on there for so long, like old friends you're not sure how to break up with. I'm not talking about your to-do list. I'm talking about your priority 1. The single action that if you did it today and nothing else would move your goals forward more than any other activity. Gary Keller calls it the one thing. I call it your non-negotiable. Here's the science behind why this must come first. Your prefrontal cortex, that decision-making and executive function region of your brain, has a finite capacity for high-quality decisions per day. Roy Baumeister and colleagues at Case Western demonstrated that making multiple decisions or exercising willpower repeatedly throughout the day degrades decision quality over time. It's one of the most replicated findings in performance psychology. What this means practically: your clearest, most focused, high-quality thinking happens in the first part of your day, before your brain has had to process dozens of emails, dozens of small decisions, and navigate dozens of conversations. If you spend that window on email, on other people's requests, other people's urgencies, other people's agendas, you're spending your highest quality brain power serving everyone else's priorities before you've served your own. Your priority one gets your best brain. Everything else gets what's left. Here's the question I want you to ask yourself every morning before you check anything. What is the one thing I can do today such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary? That question is from Gary Keller's book, The One Thing, and it is one of the most clarifying questions in business because it forces you to think in terms of leverage instead of volume. So write it down, block time for it, tell people you're unavailable during that block. Do it first before email, before calls, before anything else. Top performers don't have better to-do lists. They have better focus. And focus is a daily discipline, not a personality trait. Step 4, who's the one person that you have to serve today? Every day before the day runs away from you, I want you to name one person you're going to intentionally add value to. Not because they called you, not because there's a deal on the line, because you chose them, because you thought about what they need and you have something to offer. This is what I call the be a source moment, and I want to distinguish it from be a resource habit that most salespeople live in. A resource is called when something breaks. People know where to find it, they Google it, they scroll through their phone when they need something fixed, and when a cheaper resource comes along, they switch. A source is different. A source is someone woven into how you operate, someone you protect, someone you refer before anyone asks, someone whose absence from your business world would genuinely disrupt how you function. So the question is not, how do I get people to use me more? The question is, how do I become a source in the lives of the people I serve? And the answer is always the same. You get there one intentional act at a time, one day at a time, one person at a time. Maybe it's the agent who sent you a referral 6 months ago and you've never personally thanked them. Maybe it's the client who just moved into their first home and is probably overwhelmed and could use a simple, hey, how's it going, from someone who really cares. Maybe it's the mentor who shaped your career and who you haven't called since you got busy. Whoever it is, you name them at the start of the day and reach out to them with no agenda other than to give. Step 4 takes 5 minutes, if that. It costs nothing. And over time, compounded across months and years, it builds the kind of business that doesn't depend on advertising or algorithms. It runs on trust. And trust is built one act of genuine service at a time. Step 5 happens at the end of your day. And it might be the most important habit in the whole framework, because it's the one that most high achievers never do. Before you close your laptop, before you shift into dinner mode or evening mode, or just trying to decompress mode, you ask yourself one question. What is the one thing I did today that I'm genuinely proud of? Not the biggest deal, not the highest number, not the most impressive stat. What did you do today that reflected who you're trying to become? Here's the brain science behind why this matters. High achievers by personality and by training tend to have hyperactive self-critical loops. We are excellent at cataloging what we didn't do, what we could have done better, what we should have said differently. Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset at Stanford University demonstrates that what you measure and acknowledge at the end of the day directly shapes your brain's motivation circuitry for the next day. People who reflect on effort and progress are more resilient, more persistent, are more likely to improve performance over time than those who only measure results. Step 5 is your deliberate interpretation of your self-critical loop. It trains your brain to look for evidence of progress instead of evidence of failure. And in a business with seasons, in a market that is unpredictable, in a life that is complicated, that shift is the difference between burnout and sustainability. Success is a sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. That quote is from Robert Collier, one of the most influential writers in American self-improvement writing in the early 20th century. His work on the power of consistency and repetition predated modern neuroscience by decades, but the science caught up and proved him right. Small efforts repeated day in and day out, noticed and acknowledged at the end of each day, that is the mechanism of compounding growth, and step 5 is how you close the loop. So we've built the foundation, we've filled the cup, We've named the priority, identified the person, and committed to reflection. Now I want to give you the piece that bridges mindset to money, because all of the internal work in the world doesn't mean much if it doesn't translate into consistent external action. I call it the baseline. Something I personally do, and it's the one thing I require out of every person I coach, every team I train, every business professional I work with. 5 contacts every single day you work, non-negotiable. Let me do some math with you. 5 real contacts per day, not emails, but actual human conversations, phone calls, video calls, in-person meetings, handwritten notes that show up in someone's mailbox. 5 a day equals 25 a week. 25 a week equals roughly 100 per month. 100 per month equals 1,200 per year. 1,200 genuine human connections per year in your professional network. Do you understand what that compounds into over 3 years? Over 5 years? The people who I know who have the most referral-based businesses, who never worry about where the next deal is coming from, are not the smartest people in the room. They are the most consistent people in the room. They made the contacts when it was inconvenient. They reached out when they didn't feel like it. They showed up when nobody was watching, and the results compounded. Now, who counts as a contact? I get this question a lot every time I teach this. Here's my framework. Say category 1, your current clients. People who are actively in transaction or service with you right now. These people deserve more communications than you think they need, not less. Category 2, past clients. This is the most neglected category in virtually every business I've ever consulted with. Your past clients already trust you. They already chose you. They're your warmest referral source, and most businesses treat them like they've graduated and moved on. They haven't moved on. They're waiting for you to remind them that you haven't moved on either. Category 3, your referral partners, the professionals who send you businesses, realtors, financial advisors, attorneys, divorce attorneys, CPAs, title reps, whoever is in your referral ecosystem. They need to hear from you regularly, not when you need something. Always. Category 4 are your new prospects, people you have identified as potential clients who don't yet know what you can do for them. This is your growth category. If you never reach out to anyone new, your business will slowly shrink as relationships naturally move on. Category 5, community connections, people who may never do business with you directly, but who know people who will. The connector at your networking event, the person who runs the book club, the charitable committee you serve on. Your community presence is a long-term asset that most people underestimate. Dr. Robin Dunbar, anthropologist at Oxford University, found that humans can maintain meaningful relationships with roughly 150 people at any given time. Within that, there's an inner circle of about 15 close connections and a wider circle of about 50 reliable allies. Without consistent touch, relationships degrade, not because people stop liking you, but because you fall out of their daily cognitive frame. 5 contacts a day is the systematic way to keep yourself present in the minds of people who determine the trajectory of your business. 5 contacts a day is not a hustle strategy, it's a relationship maintenance system. It's how you stay relevant, stay top of mind, and how you stay connected. And here is how step 6 connects to step 4. Your one person to serve from the power of one is always one of your 5 contacts, not in addition to. It is the most intentional of the 5, the one you chose with specific purpose and specific intention. The other 4 are your consistent activity baseline, the daily touch points that keep your pipeline warm, your name present in the minds of the people who matter most to your business. So let me bring everything together. The Thrive in 5 framework is 6 disciplines, 2 phases plus a daily baseline. Phase 1, the power of words. Step 1 is gratitude. 3 specific named things you're grateful for in your business and personal life, written down or spoken out loud. Before you touch your phone, this activates your medial prefrontal cortex, quiets your amygdala, and triggers dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. Step 2, affirmations. 3 forward-oriented declarations about who you are becoming. Said out loud, this activates your brain's reward system and self-processing network simultaneously. Phase 2 is the power of one. So jumping into step 3, one thing you must do today, your priority 1, the single highest leverage action that moves your goals forward. Done first, before email, before calls, while your prefrontal cortex is at peak capacity. Step 4, who's the one person that you need to serve today? One intentional act of value, no agenda, pure service. This is how you move from resource to source, one day, one person, one genuine connection at a time. Step 5, one thing you achieved today. At the end of the day, name one thing you're proud of. Measure effort and character, not just results. This closes the self-critical loop and builds the neurological foundation for consistent performance. And the baseline, which is step 6, 5 daily contacts. Every day you work, 5 real human connections across your 5 relationship categories. 5 per day equals 1,200 per year. That's the system that turns your mindset practice into pipeline. Step 6, 6 steps, roughly 15 minutes of intentional practice each day, 10 in the morning, 5 at the close of business. The secret of your future is hidden in your daily routine. Remember, that's what Mike Murdoch said. Success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. That's what Robert Collier said. These 2 quotes together are the theses of everything we've just talked about today. The future is in your routine, and the routine is built from small efforts, compounded, repeated, noticed, and honored every single day. So let's close this out. Here's your challenge. 7 full days, full commitment, every step, every day. In the morning, gratitude's number 1, 3 specific things. 2, affirmations, 3 declarations out loud. Your priority 1, named and blocked before you check anything else. And sometime during the day, the one person that you're going to serve with intentionality, no agenda. 5 contacts, real conversations across your relationship categories. At the end of the day, one thing you're proud of, written down, not just thought about. 7 days, that's it. Not forever, not a lifetime commitment. 7 days to experience what this framework actually does to how you show up, how you feel, and how your business responds. And at the end of those 7 days, I want you to come back and tell me your biggest win from the week, because I want to know what happened for you. The Thrive in 5 worksheet is linked below. It walks you through all 6 steps daily. Go grab it. It's free. And if this episode was valuable to you, if something shifted, if you heard something you needed to hear, please share it. Send it to one person in the world who's working hard but feeling like the results aren't matching the effort, because that gap is almost always a daily practice problem. And now that you have the solution, I'm Shelly Panzarella, and I want to remind you of something before you close this episode. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need a perfect market. You don't need everything to fall into place before you begin. You need a daily practice. And now you have one. Go thrive. I'll see you on the next episode.